Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on Periscope and YouTube. My name's Tom Luongo. It's Friday, August 17th, 2018. Oh, yeah, it is 2018, isn't it? All right, so sorry I'm a little late. Wanted to, had some stuff going on at the house. Needed a couple minutes before I could come online tonight. So, want to talk about the title tonight is that. But what I want to talk about tonight is the panic. The panic is beginning to, I think, really set in everywhere. We're seeing it all over the place, all across markets. We're seeing it all across the headlines. We're seeing it in geopolitics. We're seeing it in we're seeing it in how things are progressing behind the scenes, and with the censorship and the what's the word I'm looking for? The lack of the extreme reactions to what has been effectively really mild stuff going on. So earlier today, Caitlin Johnstone got suspended from Twitter. What looked like it was supposed to be permanent, and over her excerpting a piece from one of her articles saying that the world would be a better place once John McCain was dead. That all of a sudden now is considered to be abuse of John McCain. Now, what we're seeing here is an extreme overreaction by the brokers of control, by the powers that be, as it were. They are really seriously ripping off the mask and letting everybody know, hey, this is it. We're not playing around anymore. You guys have gotten far too far off the reservation for our taste, and we're going to put you back in your cage. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about Turkey and their relationship with the United States and NATO. It doesn't matter if we're talking about, the mildest of libertarians, like Daniel McAdams. How does Daniel McAdams, the head of the general director of the Ron Paul Institute, get suspended or banned from Twitter for a few days? How does that happen? We're at that point where it doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever, because all you're doing is telling people, all they're doing here is telling people, you don't matter. We're going to do anything and everything that we possibly can do to make you discouraged, to make you marginalized. It's funny. It's sad that that's all they have. That they think that we love Twitter so much that we're going to stop communicating with each other simply because you got rid of a couple of people off of Twitter. Right. We're it is amazing that these things can happen, that John McCain can call the whole of Russia a terrible place, insult 145 million Russians, and he gets to have a free hand in everything. But no one can call out John McCain for his relentless warmongering, for his relentless insanity. It's actually quite sad. I do not speak Russian. So it's apparently what happened was Mattiabi, I guess, must have called out Twitter on getting rid of Caitlin Johnstone, and eventually she was reinstated. And honestly, I can't for the life of me figure out why, or one, she got banned in the first place, and then two, why she got reinstated. It's amazing how these things are playing out. It's amazing that CNN has any it's amazing how I'll get to your question, RB Tools, in just a second. I'm sorry if I'm a little distracted tonight. I've been really kind of busy and not and I'm also watching the stream health, and it's not good, and I don't know what's going on. So these aren't private companies, RB Tools. They utilize, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't agree with having a publicly funded internet, right? I don't believe in a publicly funded backbone. I don't believe in any of that stuff. But these people are based on a public infrastructure that is paid for with tax money. Okay? They cannot tell people, yeah, the feed is acting loopy, and I don't know what's going on. Hold on for just a second. Can you please stop streaming Netflix? So, yeah, we're getting any throughput whatsoever. It looks like no, it's not stable at all tonight. I don't know why. We did have really bad weather earlier in the day, and I was almost worried that we weren't going to have power tonight. I'm going to restart. All right, let's try this again. All right, let's try this again. Take two. I know we've done this many a time, and in the past we've had to do that. Yes, I know. I think everybody forgot that I go live at 9 o'clock, and they were probably watching something, and it's like everything else. I have just barely enough bandwidth to make this work. So, all right, RB Tools. Before they're not trying to shut me down. This is purely a function of me living rurally. So, yeah, it was a bad thunderstorm that we had this afternoon. I was actually worried that there was going to be tornadoes in the area. So, what happened? So, RB Tools asks a very important question before the feed went crazy, which was, how can a free market libertarian object to private companies censoring people and generally being assholes? Honest question. It is an honest question. None of these companies utilize their... Oh, they could have been watching anything. It could have been Amazon. They could have been watching fucking YouTube, for Christ's sake. None of these companies utilize bandwidth that is not tax funded. They don't control or own their wire. We pay for their wire. We pay a lot of money for their wire. 25 to 30% of my cell phone bill goes to taxes. A significant portion of my internet bill goes to federal communications taxes for regulation of this wire. They're not private companies in that respect. They don't have the right at that level then to tell me that I can't have access to the stuff that's built on their platform. It's not possible. You can't argue that. You can't argue that point. If they built the wire and they built the network and everything else, well then fine. But they don't have, ultimately don't have the legal, and this is about the legal right at this point, or the legal power at this point, because ultimately they aren't publishers. They're not regulated like publishers are. They're not afforded the same restrictions as publishers, and therefore they cannot, they're not just passive and pass-through entities. And bullshit, overly broad EULAs give them an out to say they can be doing anything else. Do I think they should be regulated as a public utility? No, I don't even like public utility laws. The free market libertarian in me says that the solution to the problem is not more regulation. The solution to the problem is less regulation. It is going to a different service. It's getting away from Twitter or Facebook or Reddit or any of the others and moving on to different services and using different platforms, right? Using BitChute or this or that, whatever. And as I said, in my original article or original videos about Alex Jones, the first thing he should be doing is sitting around, and he should be, setting up a deal with one of the porn content distribution networks and, starting speechporn.com or, YouKooks or whatever the hell he wants to call it, because that's ultimately the way you break these people. Okay. Now, they have a tremendous amount of political power. They have tremendous amount of other power, which they then turn around and use that power to put pressure on Patreon and everybody else. It only moves the problem from platform to platform if the platform providers allow themselves to be so coerced. The market should be able to correct for this, ultimately. The problem here is that we have a fundamentally mixed market. So while I can argue, ultimately, what the right solution should be, there may be, as always, layers of other problems that other layers that have to be corrected first before you can undo this particular problem. There's all these layers of legality and all these laws that are on the books and all of this stuff that will preclude the market from operating properly to allow competition to rise and then therefore create new and viable alternatives to these things, to these systems. Some of them already exist. I'm a fan of steemit. I like the fact that Minds now has an Ethereum-based token reward system. BitChute exists, is going to grow like a weed. There are other ones out there. So, this is going to happen. This is going to continue. And we're going to see more people leave the platforms. Now, it was interesting. I think about a week ago, I thought it was interesting that they didn't ban Alex Jones. Twitter didn't. And I thought for a second, it's possible that Twitter was being cut loose by the Saudis. That ultimately Prince Alawid, maybe removing his control over the company and throwing money out to it. Because remember, Twitter's second quarter was terrible. We're only 6 months removed from when everybody said Twitter's profitable and it's gonna be awesome. And then 6 months later, they're now guiding that they're going to be smaller and they're going to have negative growth for the rest of the year and all of that. And so now the question is, were they going to have to actually operate as a real company and therefore not alienate their user base? Were they being cut loose by the powers that be? That obviously that theory was incorrect, because within 24 hours, they were banning people left and right. And now they're on a major kick. Unless what's happening here is that there's an internal fight happening with a lot of these social media companies and these Silicon Valley companies, like the internal revolt within Google for building the censored Google platform for China, right? And so the real question's going to be coming down the pike here is, if Twitter has to act like a real company, then they're going to have to stop alienating their users, and we'll see what happens. Are they going to get a tremendous amount of campaign ad money? Yeah, they might. I don't know that I can enable super chats, RB tools. I guess I could. So, I don't think I have big enough audience for that, but if you guys want me to, I will. I'll be happy to read your comments directly on the air for free. So I don't see the reason why you need to pay me. If you'd like to support my work, you can do so by throwing some money up on Patreon, or you can throw me a donation either via crypto, or I should really put up a PayPal thing up on the donation thing up on the website. But if you want to have yeah, I was gonna say, I thought you needed 1,000 subscribers for super chats. So we're at 482, and we need to keep that rising. Now that's doing really well. So I think Gab is going to do really well here, and we'll keep moving forward. I think we're all doing well here. You got to understand that. I can tell you that I'm feeling the interest in my work is starting to really rise up the that like exponential growth curve. So the hat's $26 on Amazon. I have not checked recently. Inflation, it could be 28 now. But yeah. So I think things are improving. So I'd like to get to that level where we can, force Google to say, no, we don't want to monetize your channel. So, but we're about halfway there. And I think the next 500 will be pretty easy to get, considering that I've added about 300 in the last 2.5 months. So I think that's pretty good. All right. More, dollars work as well. So, yeah, I was going to say, I don't see the reason why you guys would want to throw me super chats that way. I mean, easier for me just to put up a PayPal donation button. You can, if you want to donate to the cause, you're more than welcome to. My PayPal email address is my email address. So you can send something that way if you want. You can talk to me behind the scenes as well. Either way. Suzanne Johnson, this is a great comment, and I want to bring it up, actually. I wonder if the reported changes in Soros's investments in social media have anything to do with anything. It does. I'm actually reading. You guys are killing me with the chat. Now I'm trying to keep up with anything. And I will get up. I can absolutely. We'll talk about the Dow in just a second. I think it does have a tremendous amount to do with what's going on, Suzanne. Soros is losing in all of his traditional means of social control. He just got kicked out of Hungary. He's been kicked out of Russia. He's been, he's still operating with almost near impunity in the United States. He and David Brock are doing unbelievably horrible work all over the United States. But I have to read the PayPal messages on the air. That's the deal. I can do that, DevPav. I'm good with that. But I do think that Soros is shifting his strategies because he's starting to be cockblocked by that it's becoming, I think, unprofitable for him to directly create revolutions on the ground. Look, they just had a color revolution in Armenia and it didn't work. They got their guy in, and then he sat down with Putin and realized he was going to get overthrown. He was going to get, shit on anyway. So it seems that Nikol Pashinyan in Armenia is hip to what's actually going on out there. All right, so thoughts on the Dow. I'm just gonna go through some of the questions that I see at this point. I don't really have much other than prepared to that, and I will get to the answer reconciliation about a couple both of your questions in just a second. So Buck asks thoughts on the Dow. The Dow is doing exactly what the Dow should be doing at this moment in time. We have extreme dollar illiquidity around the markets. This is sort of what I'm talking about with the euro. The euro is down not just against the dollar, it's also getting crushed against the Swiss franc and the Japanese yen. And this is telling me the carry trades are starting to unwind. And if you don't know what a carry trade is, it's really simple. It's where you borrow short and lend long, right? It's where you borrow short because interest rates at the short end of the yield curve are low, and you borrow for 0.5% or negative 0.5% if in the case of euro bonds, and then invest that money that you borrowed in long dated securities that are paying you say 2 or 3%, and then you profit the vig, and that's called a carry trade. So you're short. So inherently you are now a synthetic long against the euro and short against the Japanese yen, because if you have to unwind that trade, that means, or the other way around, then that means that you have to go and sell your Japanese yen bond, buy yen in order to cover, and then sell your euros to then turn around and it's so you unwind the trade, and that's called a carry trade. So yes, you can also support the work by buying soap from me and Camille. I haven't talked about it much recently, but we do have plenty of soap and stuff. It's a goat milk, oatmeal, and honey soap that we have 4 or 5 flavors in stock. Just DM me on Twitter if you're interested. It's $4 a bar with and a box and a $7 shipping box is 6 bars for $31. So you can do that. You just DM me on Twitter after we're done, and that would be DMing me at and I'll put my Twitter handle in the in the chat. There you go. All right. So reconciliation then asks, what's my background? If you read my Twitter bio, my steemit bio, it's former chemist, amateur economist, semi-professional goat farmer. Have a background and I have a degree in chemistry from the University of Florida, circa 1992, with a minor in English really in British poetry and literature. And about 25 years as both a bench and research chemist, or 22 years, something like that. And all of this, the geopolitics, the politics, the economics, I'm all self-taught. I'm a hardcore libertarian and an Austrian economist. I own a small hobby farm up here in North Florida, so I have dairy goats and dogs and ducks and other things that we've been doing for a long time. So if you've had a bad experience with PayPal, I understand. You don't like cryptos, I understand. The other way, of course, is to throw me a little bit of money via Patreon. It's $1 for the tip jar. It's $4 for the private blog, which is twice weekly 15-minute market reports, and access to our private Slack channel where many of these same people hang out all day and use it as their private Twitter and Facebook feed. It works really well. And then $12 a month for the Gold, Goats, and Guns investment newsletter. Who or what is Browder? We're talking about Bill Browder. Bill Browder is the former CEO of Hermitage Capital, and a man that I feel, having done a fair amount of research into him at this point, that for the past 20 years or so has been an operative of the United States government to undermine the Russian state. And that's the long and the short of it. And I'm reading Alex Krainer's book, The Grand Deception, the Bill Browder hoax, right now, and I'm nearly finished. Unfortunately, PayPal is evil, but it's... You pledged me on Gab? I don't know if they did or they didn't. I'll check. I don't log into Gab all that often, DeathPath, so let me... And I am hodling crypto as well. So... surfing the internet, the interest rate wave, and hoping for the best. That's something you should do. So yeah, Browder helped Clinton collude. No, he did that, but he also helped the Clintons during the Clinton administration. They was the operation to destroy Russia, and Browder was at the epicenter of that, having gotten his seed money from Edmund Safra, the head of Republic National Bank, who was a major was a major money launderer for Russian assets in the 1990s. And these guys were all tied in with Mikhail Khodorkovsky and Boris Berezovsky and the rest of it, and all of that stuff. And Putin coming to power, and Martin Armstrong was tied into all this stuff. I've got a couple of articles up on my blog. You can look up the Magnitsky trio pushes for sanctions against Russia. You can look up that article. And you can follow the work of people like Alex Krainer and Lee Stranahan and Lucy Commissar, and they'll get you an idea of what's going on with Bill Browder. But Browder's the guy who was instrumental in getting the Magnitsky Act passed, which is the blueprint for all of the sanctions that we're putting on people right now, all the sanctions that we're putting on for humanitarian reasons and all of this stuff, and sanctioning individuals and sanctioning companies. And it's the main reason, it's the main way now that these sanctions are being used by the Office of Foreign Asset Control, which is for the most part outside of Trump's control, to keep the Russian government and the United States government and members of them from talking to each other. I was just watching the Ron Paul Liberty Report in the interview that he did with his son, Rand, coming back from Russia. And Rand Paul made some very interesting observations in saying that, look, as long as these Russian legislators are sanctioned, there's not going to be any conversation between the United States and Russia. So if we sanction the head of the speaker of their Duma, their speaker won't speak to our speaker, and vice versa. And this is just the way it's going to be. Tom has a major in being a badass thing. Buckman, he's here. So yes, Alex Krainer, Krainer. Should be Richard Spencer. It's yeah. He did try to just financially destroy the Russian economy. You saw goats climbing trees in Greece. That's great. I get my daughter the Goats and Trees catalog calendar every year. Not that she ever puts it up on her wall or anything, but it is like, it's just a fun $9 Christmas present. It's freaking fantastic. All right, I will check with Gab on that death path. I do. Lee Stranahan is an arrogant prick, and he has every right to be, because he's very good at what he does. Lee's been very good to me, and I think that if Lee's, say that, Lee may drop in here every once in a while. But Lee's been very good to me. He has me on as a guest on his show with Garland Nixon on Sputnik Radio about once a week. And so I'm not going to say anything bad about Lee, but he is an arrogant prick, and so am I. So... but he has every right to be, because he's very, very good at what he does. And yeah, that arrogance, turned me off to him for a little while, but he's very good at what he does. He's very passionate. And his research is impeccable. So I'm okay with that. If the guys, when you're good, you're allowed to be arrogant, I think. I mean, humility is better, but yeah, I do love that Rand spoke with Gorbachev, User 13. I think that's a fantastic thing, that he sat down and had a nice conversation with Gorbachev on, what's going on here. How big will the red tide be in November? Asks Rocket Man. Pretty big. So let's talk about the thing that they're most panicked about at this point. All right. The thing that they're most panicked about is what I talked about on my video that I made this morning. The fact that Rasmussen put out a poll today that says that Trump's support amongst blacks is 36%. Now, if you guys remember when Kanye West came out and said, "I love the way Candace Owens thinks," and that sparked major controversy. If you remember at that time, Trump was polling around 18% with blacks at that point. Maybe 19%, depending. Certainly 17 to 19%, depending on whose poll you looked at. That's doubled in 2 months because of Kanye West. So, when you have a situation like that, there's going to be no blue wave, because with Hispanic support for Trump up around 45% or even higher, and the black support at 36%. And even if that's Rasmussen, that's 3 or 4 points high, who cares? Anything over 20% ensures the Democrats cannot win a national election ever again without cheating. Lee's work on Syria has been top notch. It really has. It's been almost as good as mine. Sorry, no, just it's he focuses on different aspects of it, but and actually we make our work actually complements each other really well. Interesting that the GOP talking heads are saying that gains in the Senate and losses in the House due to Dem turnout. There's not going to be Dem turnout. They will be able to play the game of taking their money and placing it in certain House races in order to pick up a couple of seats here or there. But at the same time, they're not going to have enough money to defend anything else. And if they lose the Senate badly, they're seriously trouble. If there's a red tide in November, 2020 is a guarantee for a lock for Trump, without a doubt. Most Russians do consider Gorbachev a joke. I understand that, because Gorbachev didn't go far enough. He wasn't strong enough a leader to go against the existing status quo and provide the proper transition into after the fall of the Soviet Union. And we backed Yeltsin, and Yeltsin quickly was, corrupted by the entire process. So will Rand Paul get a powerful committee chairmanship after the midterms? I don't know. I'm not privy to the inside dope on GOP politics at this point. I'm not watching things from that perspective. I wish I was. By the way, we're at 26 people on the stream so far on YouTube. That's fantastic. That's the biggest number we've ever had. So just so you know, it's very obvious that whatever's working here on YouTube is whatever we're doing here on YouTube is working. So that's great. They need at least +7 on the generic ballot to take the House. The thing that scares me most, in my opinion, this is RB Tools, is a reassert of Russia and the fact that Trump might actually understand that Russia has a legitimate place in the global chessboard. Trump does understand that. And I think that's one of the nuances being lost by all of this crazy sanction stuff and yelling at Turkey and all of this stuff, is that, and Alistair Kirk brought this up a few weeks ago, and I happen to continue to agree with him on this, is that I do really believe that Trump has already made his peace with the multipolar world. One in which there are nodes of power in areas of control of China, Russia, and the United States, where he feels that Trump is trying to, and he's right, I think, where Trump is trying to maintain U.S. control is through energy dominance and through financial dominance. And so that's why we're still cozying up to the Saudis. We need the Saudis. We need the Saudis to prop up the dollar while we ramp up our oil and gas production to levels that we've never seen before. And I know that that's what Trump's plan is. Okay? I know that's what Trump's plan is. It's so very obvious. And I think that he's serious about moving our production up towards 12 or 13 million barrels, or even as high as 15 million barrels of oil a day. And if that's the case, then the world won't need the Saudis at that point, and he won't need them to, and I'm sure that's what he feels, is that he will not need the Saudis to prop up the dollar anymore. Yeah, I mean, and so because of that, I think that the Saudis' position within the severe influence of the United States is very tenuous. Auto Glass Express, who I've never seen on the stream before, so welcome. I'm gonna talk about your question here in a minute. Is it obvious that they want Trump to win? You're telling me they can't find one person to contend with him, not one in the entire 350 million population? It's not about that. It's about the fact that he's the incumbent, and if he does at least one, if he continues to do what he's been doing and survives all of these things that are happening right now are all are all a coup against Trump, from the permanent bureaucracy and the people who stand behind them, what you can call the shadow government or whatever, the financiers and the power brokers that stand behind everybody, the billionaire oligarchs. I happen to like to call them the Davos crowd, right? And incumbents in the United States win more often than not. And so the Democrats don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the candidates. They don't have the infrastructure. They're imploding. They're imploding as a coalition. The whole classic Democrat coalition is failing. Trump has already taken the union vote away from them. There's the Bernie Bros. He's already taken them from them. Now he's losing the blacks and the blacks and Hispanics, the minority vote. He's losing them as well. And the last one, and so the only one left are the bi-coastal smug liberals and the progressives. And the progressives don't even like, and the bi-coastal liberals know they can't win with crazy Antifa style progressives, and the crazy Antifa style progressives don't like the bi-coastal libs because they're not woke enough. The whole thing's completely imploding. Meanwhile, the traditional leadership in the GOP, who are basically no different than the bi-coastal libs because they all speak for they all speak with the same respectable voice for the supposedly respectable voice, like air quotes there, of the billionaire oligarch crowd, the Davos crowd. Those guys are the caretakers. They're the ones they're the managers who are supposed to guarantee that policy moves in whatever direction that they're told that it's supposed to move in, and everybody else is just supposed to like fight amongst themselves. And the whole thing is couched as this Team A, Team Red versus Team Blue false dichotomy, and we all sit here and yell at each other. So you can call Democrats and Republicans scream at each other that you're all useless, and we libertarians are standing there going, oh, by the way, it's those guys over there. We should be yelling at them. And that's what's actually gotten through. That's what Trump represents. That's what Bernie Sanders represented. That's what Ron Paul represented. And so that's where we are here. And that trend is going to continue to play itself out. And the harder the powers that be fight, and the more desperate they get in their fight, oh my God, dude, the more red pilling goes on. The more you see cracks in the whole system, the more they like the little Dutch boy trying to stop the leaks with their fingers. They've run out of fingers. I mean, as fat as Rob Reiner is, he can only hold so many cracks up. It's fucking retarded at this point. So you just every day you watch this play out, and you watch this old guard, you watch these old freaking boomers like John McCain and Lindsey Graham and Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer and Pelosi and all of them. They're all just like running the script here. Joe Biden and the rest of them, they're all just running the script. They don't know what else to do. These people have a lot of power, and they're very smart, but they're not very clever. They just do the same shit over and over again, and we don't believe it anymore. Does the Democratic leadership know that they'll lose big in November and the blue wave talk is denial? This is Rocket Man. They know. Why do you think the full court press is on? Why do you think that they tried to turn taking away John Brennan's security clearance into a damned if Trump does and damned if Trump doesn't moment? If he doesn't get rid of Brennan's security clearance, then Brennan will continue to leak and use the information that he has access to destroy Trump on CNN. And if Trump does do what he did, then they'll say he's trying to cover everything up, and it's unprecedented, and it's unconstitutional, and he's a traitor, and it's proof that he's a traitor, and all this. If you don't understand that's a moment of desperation on their part, that banning Alex Jones is a moment of desperation on their part. They don't know what else to do. They're losing so badly. Kanye West red pills 20% of the black population in 2 months, and now they've got to go after Alex Jones because they think Alex Jones is the problem. I mean, they're still fighting. They're like all other generals. They're always fighting the last war. InfoWars helped him win the 2018 election. Kanye West has won him the midterms. I don't generally vote. I don't like to encourage them. Remember, anarcho-libertarian, I voted for Trump because I thought he was Loki. And that to me was a tactical, that to me was the most tactically sound thing I could do. But normally I wouldn't vote for these fucking people. They're all terrible. Vincer Otmori, I want to read your, I hope I'm not butchering your name, which I probably am. Speech and ideas presented on social media sites is self-limiting, not requiring censorship, as the best speech will always rise to the top if not artificially manipulated by the platform providers. Dude, that's fantastic. I couldn't have said it better myself. There's no need to regulate speech. If you're a jackass, no one listens to you. I always say, and I've said this about living on the internet forever, there are two rules to being successful on the internet. Be interesting or be ignored. And quality sells itself. And if you keep those two things in mind and then find your unique niche and work it as best as you can, eventually you will find your audience. That audience may be 20 people. That audience may be 10,000 people. Whatever it is, it's your audience. The Democrats are insane about talking about Russia 24/7. It is killing them. Because the United States, because the people who voted for Trump in 2016, most of them voted for Trump because he was talking about not going to war with Russia. And these fucking neocons and these dead enders are forcing him to a near moment of that, which is insane. Party loyalists are destroying the U.S. on both sides. The MAGAPEDs are becoming the QAnon, the Q-tards, and the MAGAPEDs are becoming. They're falling into the same trap as the SJWs. The useful idiots have slipped their leashes and now they're causing more problems than they're worth. That describes John Brennan to a T. He doesn't know what to do. North on 60. The cracks in the system are Grand Canyon proportions now. The system, meaning left versus right or red versus blue, is dead, and we are seeing it rot at this point. Yep. Oh, I can only imagine. Green Penguin, how could you stand to listen to NPR on Brennan's security clearance revocation? I'm sorry. My stomach is just not that strong anymore. I'm too old for that shit. It's just crazy. Oh, Joanne Leone says, I expect a lot of rat fucking. Because I'll just say it because I don't give a shit. Bombshell revelations of wrongdoing of various candidates weeks before the elections. It's going to be worse than that. Major Senate elections are already being set up for legal challenges on the grounds of Russian meddling. You white. Bill Nelson is going to lose to Rick Scott, but be reseated as the senator from Florida because I'll bet you they try to invalidate the election. I'll bet you. Not a lot, but I'll bet you. Israeli passport holders have automatic diplomatic visa status in the Russian Federation and can be in Russia visa free. That's interesting. Can anyone explain to me why Clapper, Brennan, Comey, and so many ex shit for brains with security clearance do not lose their security clearance immediately when they lose their position? I don't know. The only thing I can think of is that they don't lose their security clearance because in normal circumstances, their expertise as advisors and consultants would be valuable based on their experience. So that makes sense to me. It's kind of like, but at the same time, these guys are all Obama appointees, and the entire Obama administration was nothing but a bunch of political hatchet men. And women. And trans. And Valerie Jarrett. So now you're dealing with the leftovers of what has always been a policy. Oh, okay. Coworker listens to NPR, so you're like trapped as a captive audience. I voted for Trump only because he was not Hillary. My wife has the best quote ever about that. and I've said it here before, and I'll say it again because it never gets old saying it, especially in public. I waited 25 years to vote against that bitch. Camille. My wife is awesome. Trump would not be president if it were not for Hillary's stupid statement of calling half of the population of the United States a basket of deplorables. I saw that and I just clapped. I just went. It was like that moment in Citizen Kane. It was awesome. It was unbelievable that she would say that. That she slipped her handlers. And my good friend and partner in this Gold, Goats, and Guns project said to me, he's like, who dresses that woman? She has no fashion sense. It's obvious from how badly she dresses that she has nothing but yes men around her, and women or whatever, that she has nothing but toadies around her to tell her, oh yes, Hillary, everything you do is brilliant. That she can brook no criticism whatsoever because anybody with 3 cents worth of fashion sense would tell her, no, baby, the Kim Jong-un look is not for you. Put down the scotch. Back away from the closet. Back away from the pantsuit. And put that on. And that's why you know that her campaign was going to lose. Because there was nobody in there telling her, honey, you can't do this. You've got to do this. No, she just thought she was going to win. And I'm telling you, she thought she was going to win because she had the statistics on her side. She had the voter fraud on her side. She had everything going for her. And she thought Trump was a complete joke and it would be easy for her to roll over him because she was thinking like a classic politician. She didn't realize that this was the election where we were going to throw all the normal politicians overboard. Hillary Clinton Hillary Clinton would have lost to my dog. I mean, Calvin's got one eye and he's kind of stupid and he's crazy, but he'd make a better president than her. She dresses like a Chinese dictator. Yeah. She can afford something other than polyester. Not anymore, baby. Clinton Foundation's dried up. Yeah, she does. She's Dr. Evilus. It's crazy. Oh no, yeah, that thing she was wearing in like India. Yeah, it was like she was wearing a bad curtain from like my grandmother's house, or, you know, like a crazy cat lady's house. It was crazy. I mean, dude, I don't have any fashion sense. I wear t-shirts and shorts because, well, you know, and I wear solid colors, so I don't have to worry about anything like screwing up, right? I'm not any good at this. I know that solid colors look good. It's simple. It's easy. It's part of my Aspie thing. I can only handle solid colors. You give me like something else, I don't know how to deal with it. My pajamas. Okay, my pajamas are flannels and Star Wars and whatever. Okay, fine, whatever. You know, they don't leave the house. I wouldn't be caught dead out of the house in my fucking pajamas. Well, Hillary wears them on friggin' stage. She was just a terrible candidate, Ann Gable. She absolutely was. You told it to all ass it would take 5 trips. So Autoglass. I don't know. This all seems scripted, like they're way over the top with their attacks and actions. I wonder if everybody's missing the real moves. No, honestly, sometimes when it gets like this, it really is just what you're seeing. Okay, I'm waiting for, I mean, look, they've tried the nuts and sluts thing on Trump so many times now. It hasn't worked, and they don't, like, when is it going to end? Because they don't have anything else. They keep doing the nuts and sluts thing, right? It's, you know, that's what it is. It either you bring out a slut, Stormy Daniels, or you bring out a nut, Omarosa. We got to, you know, and this was all timed with the polls coming out that Trump was going to be at 36% amongst blacks. They could see the numbers. They've got real polls. They're not stupid. No, they may print the crappy NBC polls for our consumption, the Gallup polls for our consumption, but they're real polls. They know what they are. They know what they are. They know what the numbers are. They're pulling their asses off right now, and they don't know what to do. I mean, seriously, this is absolute panic. Okay. More of a vacuum cleaner. Yeah, Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton. I mean, I've got like couch pillows with more personality than Jeb Bush. I mean, seriously. I mean, like a potato, for fuck's sake. Is it possible that some R's are getting loony running against them because they know the Davos crowd controls the Republican incumbent? That's possible. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on both sides. I don't think Jeb gives a shit, User 13, about not being president. I don't think Jeb wanted I can tell you that Jeb didn't want to be freaking governor of Florida. Hell, he governed like he didn't want to be governor of Florida. It's a good thing. The legislature runs Florida anyway. He doesn't have anything to do. This is why, you know, it's funny. People who live in people who get upset about the governor here in Florida. It's really funny. The libs are like, every time there's a Republican governor, they just like lose their freaking mind. They blame Rick Scott for everything, and they just like they blame Jeb Bush for everything. But you know, when Childs was in charge, and the place was a mess anyway. It's all the legislature. You know, complaining about the governor is stupid because he has no power. The legislature has all the power here in Florida. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Oh, that's just a lost. That's a Green Penguin. If you got a tranny who's running for governor against the Republican who signed, you know, gun control law. Yeah. No, what you have there are two completely controlled candidates. Yeah, absolutely. Ocasio-Cortez is already hiding from the media. Oh, yeah. Republican and Democrat are marketing terms for fundraising. It's a uniparty. We have to look at what they do, not the letter after their name. The Davos crowd are globalists, right? When I use the word Davos crowd, I'm talking about the international globalist. You know, the guys that run the BIS and the IMF and the World Bank and all the major City of London operations in Manhattan. They run the Southern District of New York. It's all the same people. Okay. So it's all the same people. All right. So when you look around today, what you're seeing is a tremendous amount of panic. And it's a good thing. When they're panicking, it's a good thing. Okay. It's absolutely where you want to be ultimately in all of this. It's where you know you're winning when they're making moves like this, because fundamentally everybody understands this is un-American, and that's just not going to fly with 90% of voters. So User 13 brings up Turkey, which would be the last leg of this whole panic sequence. The Turkey panic seems a bit of a put on, like they know the Turks and Putin are running the table on them. Yeah, well, no, I just think it's a classic example of, look, we have control, we have this power. Trump believes very strongly in using whatever leverage and power he has to the full extent of it for as long as he has to. And I don't think he wants Turkey out of NATO in the end. He doesn't want the Russians gaining Turkey into their sphere of influence. Yeah, the Turks and the Russians don't get along traditionally, which is why for the last couple of years since Putin intervened in Syria, we've been trying to get them into a war with each other. So, that's the important part about what's going on with Turkey. And I think that everybody ultimately understands that, especially Erdogan understands that the United States is not trustworthy. And everybody around the world right now is getting a firsthand look at just what happens when the U.S. truly takes the mask off. And they're getting scared of it. In the past, and this is the interesting part about it, in the past, there was never anybody to stand up and say no. I wrote an article for Strategic Culture earlier in the week. I don't know that they published it yet. I haven't gotten the notification from the editor over there that they published it. Maybe they're holding it for next week. But it centers on Azerbaijan, an old Caspian Sea deal that came together last week. And within that article, I brought up the fact that Russia's intervention into Syria marked the pinnacle of the U.S.'s ability to project power around the world. And I mean that very sincerely. This is not me like talking out of my ass. I've been saying this since the day it happened. And the reason I feel that way is because this is finally when somebody stood up and said no, and can then set the example of how to say no to the United States on the international stage. Because no one has said no on the international stage to the United States since the fall of the Soviet Union. So, looking at this situation with Turkey, it's very obvious that Putin wants to flip Turkey into the sphere of influence of Asia, as opposed to flipping Turkey to the west towards NATO and the EU. It's very obvious that this is his means by which to create to drive an anti-globalist wedge between Turkey and the rest of the world. And so in that respect, he and Trump have similar goals. And so, yeah, in a certain sense, it's very possible here that Trump is working against, is pushing this hard on Germany, on Turkey, on Iran, on Russia, or allowing them to push this hard. And then he's just going along with it, knowing that the final outcome is going to be a break in the traditional relationships, with the final outcome being Turkey finally just officially leaving NATO, which then, and Germany and Russia crafting a deal. And if that happens, the reason for NATO goes away. And then how in the hell do you justify this massive budget for NATO? Which is why the military-industrial complex, and especially the Brits, what's not been talked about here is how instrumental all year long the Brits have been in stoking this crap between the United States and Russia. The Skripal poisoning, the diplomatic fallout, all the stuff with the Trump-Russia collusion and Muellergate and Browder and all of this shit's all coming out of the friggin' fucking shithole that is the United Kingdom. It's all MI6 and the traditional British deep state screwing with everybody. Have I ever been to Moscow? No, I haven't. So, and it marked the return of Russia as a serious global player. And by saying no, it inspires all of the smaller players to then who know this is all bullshit. Like, everybody knew that the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey were just trying to destroy Syria. Every fucking body in the world knew it. Except the Americans. Except the stupid fucking Americans who are not told anything. Okay? But everybody else in the world knew it. All the world leaders knew it. They knew what was going on. And they said nothing because there was nothing they could do about it. There was nothing they could do about it. You can't stand up to it. You got to go along to get along. And the reason why Turkey is so important is because they tried to set Turkey up as the fall guy once the Russian invasion started to unravel and make public the reality of what was happening in Syria. They searched for a fall guy and they tried to give it to Erdogan. And Erdogan said, "Fuck you, I'm not doing that." They framed him for the Su-24 shoot down, and then they and immediately he immediately went and talked to Putin. I've gone over this multiple times. I'm just mostly going over this again for the new people. Remember that Erdogan has been moving away from the United States for 3 years now. This shit's been coming to a head for 3 years. And he spent a lot of money helping to atomize, to destroy Syria, then house all the refugees. And then Wall Street's out there saying today, going, "Dude, you spent all this money and you got the 6.6% current account deficit. No. You should have raised interest rates and let Larry Summers at the IMF fuck you over and all this other shit." It's all fuck you. You don't fuck talking your fucking book. It's all you're doing. It's retarded. And in 6 hours today, there were no less than 3 different articles on Zero Hedge about Turkey. El Arian, and then I had it up on the Slack channel this afternoon. All I said was, think somebody's getting worried? Let's see, there's 3 articles in a row this afternoon. The hell did I put it? Damn it. It was in money. That's where it was. Sorry. Yeah, and 1 and 3 and 6 out within a few hours of each other on Zero Hedge today. Here's 3 articles in a row. Ready? First, Turkey's collapse could send millions of refugees flooding into Europe. Then, Fitch comes out and says Turkey's actions are insufficient to restore public credibility, which is exactly what the rating agencies in the United States are supposed to do. They support U.S. foreign policy objectives by leaning on the markets and getting and forcing liquidations through downgrades, because so much of managed money is tied to the credit worthiness based on the rating agencies, that the rating agencies' ratings for a particular level of debt, meaning that there's billions and tens of billions of dollars in investable funds out there that are in these friggin' managed index funds or these bond funds or whatever that say, well, you can only that have a prospectus that says you can only be in investment grade bonds of, double B or higher, or double or A minus or A minus or higher, right? And so if Turkey's sitting at A minus and then they get downgraded to B plus, guess what? All those bonds have to be sold because it's against the rules of the prospectus of the fund. And now all of a sudden, boom, we can create a fucking sell-off. And then George Soros goes in and goes into the currency forward markets and drops a couple $100 million, and boom, the currency collapses. And then we see 6 or 7 articles in Bloomberg and Reuters and the Financial Times and the Economist and a couple other friggin' places, and boom. And then we got them talking on CNBC, and then we got them talking on Bloomberg TV, and it all starts all over the place. And then the Presidential Council, the Working Group on Financial Markets, pushes on the currency. And then there's another well-timed headline, news event, this and that event, and everything triggers off of each other. And with 90% of the friggin' trading being done by computers, keying off the friggin' headlines, guess what? And then you get the Momo monkeys, and then you get the whole friggin' thing it's all designed. And then everybody sits back and goes, yeah, I saw that coming. Meanwhile, it was fine for 5 years. Turkey's been running a 5% current account deficit for years. The Turks are angry about the indifference of the Europeans towards the coup d'etat. And then this morning I saw on Zero Hedge, there's a great video of a guy beating his iPhone with a hammer because Erdogan told him to boycott iPhones. So there's Fitch. That's number 2. Number 3, the Turkish doom loop in one chart. I mean, they're scared to death that Turkey defaults on $230 billion worth of worthless corporate debt. Spain owns $83 billion of it. Italy owns 17 of it. France owns $40 billion of it. Japan owns a bunch of it. The U.S. banks own a bunch of it. And it's all and dude, if you think that it's going to just stop with that and they're just going to ring fence that, you don't ring fence $230 billion worth of corporate debt defaults with the wave of a hand. Erdogan's sitting there going, "You're taking me down, I'm taking you all fucking with me, motherfucker. Fuck you. Fuck you." That's what's coming. Fuck you. This is the biggest fuck you of all time. And Putin's standing right behind him, and Xi's standing right behind him, standing right behind them, going, "Yep, just wait. A couple more days. Let this get out of control." But I'm watching the Turkish lira, and I said on Friday when I was on Sputnik Radio, the mothership in Moscow, last week, and the woman asked me directly, "Do you think that the Turkish lira has, that this is have we reached maybe a bottom?" And I said, "Well, I can tell you that we're close to the max pain moment, and when things get this crazy, and you're interviewing someone like me, that this is probably a good signal that we've reached the top." It doesn't hurt that Goldman Sachs said that, at 7, when the Turkish lira hit 7.1, the Turkish banking system fails. That was a dead giveaway signal that Goldman was shorting the Turkish lira to 7.1 and that they were covering once it crossed 7. Go look at the daily chart. They've been covering their ass all week and making a fortune. All looks good to me. All right, guys. We're a little over an hour, and I'm starting to curse a lot. So that usually means it's time for me to go. I'll be back Monday night at 8 o'clock. Plus or minus 10 minutes. And we'll go from there. If you like what you heard tonight, you can give a like and subscribe down below. It'd be really good. We do want to get to 1,000 people here on YouTube. That would be great. You can follow my work on Patreon. You can throw a couple bucks my way that way. And if you really want to help out the cause, send me a DM on Twitter. We'll talk. All right. You guys take care. You have a great evening. This has been a tremendously fun tonight. I wasn't really into it when we started, but this has turned out to be great. And yeah, fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling. But, say what you want. But at least, say what you want about National Socialism. At least it's an ethos. All right, you guys take care. You have a great night. You be good and keep your stick on the ice.